started.
I am starting the stream right now, so we should be good to go.
Got it. Thank you. All right, so welcome everybody to the December meeting of the Board of Paralegal Certification. Before we get started, I am required to read a reminder to everybody, and so I'll just read that, and then we'll jump into maybe some introductions. Members of the board are hereby advised of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before the board with respect to which there is a conflict of interest. So with that housekeeping out of the way, let me just, maybe we can start off the meeting. I know we've got some new folks here. Start off with introductions. So as Brian referenced a minute ago, I am Brian Scott. I am the chair of the board for the coming year, and I actually have served 2 terms on the board, and so this will be my 7th and final year on the board, and it is just to be able to serve as chair to provide a little bit of continuity. This year, our vice chair is Benita Powell, who I believe Brian said was going to be late, and I don't see her on the line yet.
Yeah, she's not here yet, but she's with Fayetteville State in their general counsel office.
Right. Okay. All right, and then I know we have 3 new members: Attorney Precious Vines Harris, Attorney Scott Hart, and Paralegal Carrie Marshall. And Brian, rather than me trying to introduce folks, maybe we could go around and have everybody just introduce yourself, who you're with, where you are. And Brian, if you could facilitate that so that we're not talking over each other, that would be helpful.
I'd be happy to do that. And just
maybe start with yourself. Maybe
I was going to say a quick introduction. I'm Brian Oaten. I'm the director of the program and work at the State Bar. Been at the State Bar for about 17 years, about 4 years, not 17 years, 15 years, but about 4 years in this particular role. And really, I think before we get to other board member introductions, we need to introduce the most important person in this program. Joy Belk, will you please unmute yourself and say hello to everyone?
Hello, everyone. I'm Joy Belk. I am Managing Director of Paralegal Certification, and I am happy and excited to have everyone on the board, and I look forward to working with my seasoned board members and my new board members. So welcome.
Joy truly is the glue that holds us all together and keeps us on track. So hopefully everybody will get to know her very, very well, especially for you new board members.
All right, let's go to Sarah Kaufman.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kaufman. I'm a litigation paralegal at Ellis & Winters in Raleigh. And sadly, this is my last year on the certifying board, but it's okay.
Try to pretend like you didn't say that. Let's go, Daryl.
Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Davidson. I practice with Bimbo Davidson and Martin in Statesville, North Carolina. And this is actually my first year on the board. Yeah, it's my first year. And hello, everybody.
Daryl gets the award for snazziest dresser for today.
Absolutely.
My mom dresses me. She lays out my clothes every night before I go to work.
Man. All right, let's Scott Hart, would you introduce yourself?
I'm Scott Hart. I'm a bar counselor for the 4th Judicial District, which is Craven, Carteret, and Pamlico. I am an attorney and managing partner of the firm of Sumrall Sugg in New Bern. Former litigation primarily, but now I work as a mediator and arbitrator for the majority of my practice. And I have been asked to step into the extraordinarily large shoes of Matt Smith, who was passed on. And the other thing about me is that in the grievance committee, I'm often a co-conspirator of Daryl Davidson's. We typically get in trouble together.
Exactly.
Had I known that, I would have offered an objection when your name was mentioned.
We'll all have to mind our P's and Q's with the dynamic duo here on the line. Scott,
right.
welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Brian.
Carrie Marshall. Hi. Can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself?
Sorry. Ever since I got this new computer, I cannot do Zoom very well. I apologize. I have 3 screens looking at me, and it's kind of crazy. I'm Carrie Marshall, and I work at Parker Poe, Adams and Bernstein in Charlotte, representing Charlotte. I'm really excited about that. I have been working here 12 years, and I used to work for a business litigation group. Then I started working in the docketing group. Now I work still with both of those groups, but I work for the general counsel. So I've been here for a while, so wear many hats, and I'm super excited to work with all of you, especially Joy. And I have a picture of me and Joy together that I wanted to share with everyone, and I forgot to do it because I didn't really have any time, but we'll do that at another time. So
We'll expect you to blow that up and put it as your background. For
I will do that.
Next board meeting. Carrie, welcome to the board.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. And Precious, would you please introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Attorney Precious Miles Harris, and I'm the Director of Paralegal Technology at Durham Technical Community College. So I'm super excited to be here. Also a member of the Paralegal Certification Committee. Thank you.
And from what Joy was always saying, Precious was, she was the driving force. We are in the process still of revamping our exam. And Joy is, I don't think I've ever heard Joy so conflicted of the notion that, yes, we want Precious on the board, but that means that she probably can't be as involved in the Paralegal Certification Committee, and I need her there. But just nothing but praise for you, Precious. So we're excited to have you aboard.
All right, and I think that's everybody, right, Brian, or at least everyone who's on the line.
That's right.
And I guess I should have said earlier, I'm the chair, but I'm a litigator, construction lawyer, commercial litigator at Ackerman LLP here in Winston-Salem. All right, so let's get down to business. Then the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the last meeting, which was all the way back on August 23rd of this year. And so hopefully everyone has received those in your meeting packet, had an opportunity to look those over. And are there any comments or questions about the minutes of the last August meeting? And if not, we'll entertain a call for a motion to approve those minutes.
Don't everybody jump at the opportunity to make a motion.
I'll move.
There you go. All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Scott. All right, all motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you for that, Sarah and Scott. Next on the meeting agenda is the review of our financial statements for the period ending October 31. And so, Brian, I think with that, I'll kick that over to you to give the financial report.
Right, and we'll get into probably a more accurate picture of our financial statement when we get to the budget discussion. But you can see the October financial statements are in your material. That's the latest financial statements that we have. We expect to get the November ones sometime this week, but we are in budget season. So our controller, our accountant, is doing all the budgets for all the different boards and programs, and understandably there's a delay there. But generally speaking, one thing to point out, even as of the end of October, we had collected nearly 99% of our projected revenue, which is great. And we're still, I think there's still some outstanding exam fees and things of that nature. So, hopefully we'll push past that by the time we get to December 31. But we're looking good for revenue. We had projected a deficit of $23,000 for this year. You see, in October, we were projecting a surplus of $50,000. That's not the entire case. We still have expenses to go I guess we were running a surplus. We still have expenses, though, for November and December, including some of our larger expenses, such as the ExamSoft final bill for the year of the exams that we administered this year. And things like that. So again, we'll get into a bit more of a discussion about our finances both year end as well as what we're projecting for 2023 when we get to the budget discussion. But really, there's nothing significant to note. If anything, I do think, and you'll see this again in the budget discussion, that we will not be reaching that deficit number in 2022. So things are looking good this year.
Good. All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian on the October 31 financial statements? All right. Moving on then, I think next up is the director's report, Brian, which is also you.
Right. And so just a quick a couple of things here for our report. The annual report was delivered to the State Bar Council at the October meeting. Every October, every board or commission that's under the State Bar umbrella gets the opportunity to address the State Bar Council. And so Warren Hodges delivered the report of the Board of Paralegal Certification. You find that in your materials if you're so interested. Just noting the activities of the board over the past year and the good work that's been done by this program. Moving on with, I don't know if there's any questions. I don't imagine that's a terribly controversial thing. So I was going to go ahead and address the rest of the report, the director's report, which would be the update on the administration of the 2022 exams, as well as database implementation. Joy, would you want to offer some thoughts on the administration of our exams? We just had our most recent exam in October, and I believe we administered the exam to, oh goodness, Joy, what's the number? Is it 193? Is that how many people we had?
Well, that's how many people were approved, but everybody sit for the exam, unfortunately. But you'll see in the paperwork, I think we did have 93 people to pass the exam, so that is awesome. Everyone loves the remote proctoring exam process. That is going well. We did not have any complaints or issues as far as the delivery of the exam online. So hopefully we can move forward in our next coming years using the remote proctoring. But the exams were great in April and October. And once again, we will have the exams is April the 23rd, 2023, and October the 14th, 2023, I do believe.
All right. There's the great thing is that, you know, we switched over to remote proctoring as a result of the pandemic, and we this is kind of background for our new board members. But we've been utilizing. We kind of had this process where we administered the exam in 4 different locations, usually throughout the state. It was mostly done kind of with the old Scantron sheets, and we have switched over to using ExamSoft, a program that's used by our specialization program here at the State Bar, but also by a number of different jurisdictions with the bar exam, universities, et cetera. So it's a popular program, but they also introduced a remote proctoring feature. And that's something we kind of took a chance on. We experimented with during the pandemic, and it has paid off because we have seen an increase in applicants. I believe we've also seen an increase in the, I guess, the spectrum, the geographical spectrum of applicants. People who could not ordinarily travel to Raleigh or Charlotte to take the test on a Saturday can now take the test at their office in Murphy or wherever they may be. So it really has paid off. This particular exam, I thought something that was notable, although, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, you know, we have reported to you all that we've seen some folks that have done some odd things during the exam in the past, and maybe some particularly just, you know, you can't do that, and we've you know, disqualified them from the exam and so forth. We didn't really have any of that this year. There are some kind of funky technological things, and there are some folks that we're still kind of making sure, trying to vet what happened during the exam, but there was nothing that stuck out like, you know, big red flag like we've seen in the past. So that's a good thing. Again, successful administration of the exam through remote proctoring. But we're happy to answer any questions you all might have about that.
I actually have one because I did it the old school way. When I took my exam, I wasn't grandfathered in. And so remote proctoring, what does that exactly mean? Is that like a video that someone's watching you while you're taking the test? Is that how that works?
Yeah, basically, we ask everybody to FaceTime us, and we just watch them. No, I'm kidding. We don't do that. But it's we have the remote proctoring feature effectively employs kind of a combination of AI, artificial intelligence, and human review. So during the exam, examinees are required to use a laptop that has a camera, a working camera, as well as a working microphone. And we have a pre-test to make sure that everything's working and so forth. But the remote proctoring software basically turns on the camera while you are taking the exam, and turns on the microphone. And it creates little kind of red flags in the timeline whenever somebody looks away for an extended period of time. You know, it's not so much just kind of like you look away once, you're trying to think about the answer, but when somebody suddenly is ducking their head for a long time, or perhaps there's somebody else in the room, like we experienced the very first round of these exams, they were talking to somebody who was behind the laptop. Things of that nature. So it records those things, and basically the software creates little markers where it requires a human to go back and check out those markers. And so ExamSoft employs people that go and review the video, they review the audio, and then they type up a summary. If they suspect an integrity breach, they let us know about it. And then we get the full video so we can check it ourselves as well. So there's a lot of different levels of review. And it's something that I think the thought of it, especially initially, was kind of creepy. That's the only way I can put it, that like there's a camera watching me while I'm taking an exam. But at the same time, I think, you know, you kind of move past that, and now everybody's able to take their exams, and, you know, 99% of the examinees, you just see them, you know, their eyes are on the screen, and, you know, they're maybe kind of talking to themselves through the question or what have you, but they're just going and taking the exam. And it really has enabled, I felt very strongly seeing that it enabled folks to take the exam where they might not be able to travel and afford that time away, the expense of staying in a hotel room, things of that nature. It's really opened up our program in that way. But that's essentially how it works.
The accessibility of it has been tremendous.
Yeah.
In the program, for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the recent exam administration? Brian, database.
Yeah, so this is just kind of, you know, another thing of, I guess, mostly good news. I say mostly because there are still some things that we internally want to see from the database, as far as, you know, tweaks and processes that would make the act of recertifying folks and collecting all the information and approving everybody just a little bit more smooth. But from what we've heard and what we've experienced ourselves, those are certified paralegals that are logging in to recertify, to pay their dues, to just kind of take care of the business that is maintaining their certification. We've heard nothing but positive reports. Certainly some folks lose their password, or, you know, there's some sort of glitch there, but we can usually figure that stuff out. Really, I think we experienced a lot of that when we first switched over to this, but right now, and certainly would love to hear back if anybody else, particularly our paralegals on this board, if you've heard from other paralegals about the use of the new member portal. If you've heard nothing but good things, or if you heard some gripes, we'd love to hear it. But from what's being communicated to us has been very positive stuff. I know Joy can speak to that as well. It seems like our certified paralegals really love this new process. It's made it easier, it's made it more efficient, and certainly has made it very efficient for accounting purposes. So everything is going well.
I haven't heard any gripes, but I love it. So much easier than trying to get a check cut from my office and remembering to actually mail it, and all those steps that I don't do for my regular bills. So
Right.
Agreed. It has been so much better. So much
That's
better.
great. That's great to hear. So yeah, we're going to continue to work on it to make it even better. And one of the things that kind of a slight preview, not trying to get terribly off topic, but one of the things that we've talked about is there a way that we can merge CLE with CPE? Because we have, with our program, the ability to accredit certified paralegal education courses, or continuing paralegal education courses. And that's something that we're looking at internally at the bar. Can we combine those things so we can actually show kind of a status bar and have someone's CPE record for their certification in the member portal? Lawyers have that because we have all the CLE records that are kind of in this old database that got carried over and things of that nature. And we want to do the same thing for CPEs. And that's kind of, we're going to get to some of that discussion in just a bit when we start talking about, well, I guess that actually does transition us fairly well. I forgot that's the exact next item, Brian. So do you want me to just launch right into that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, so talking about 2023, some of the things, and again, this is a little bit of background for our new board members. Some of the things that we've been talking about this past year was just ways to streamline the program and make the program work better for our certified paralegals, as well as for our board processes and staff. And so one of the ideas that I was just referencing, this ability to let our certified paralegals see where they are on their CPE requirements, that really, it's possible. But one of the things that we want to do is basically make a continuing education department at the state bar. It's currently the CLE department. We want to make it all continuing education so we can merge all those records. I know right now, if you are a paralegal and you attend a CLE, your attendance doesn't get reported the way that lawyers' attendance gets reported and assigned to their bar ID so they can have their record all available in the portal. And that just seems like a wasted opportunity. So we want to change that. And I think that's possible. The thing that we are waiting on, the CLE rules for lawyers, are in the process of being changed. And this is kind of the update that I wanted to give you all. And we talked about this back in February when we met in person. This was kind of on the horizon for the bar. They've gone through a number of rounds of publications for these different rules. They've received a lot of feedback. They have continually tweaked what's proposed, and the anticipation is that I guess what they're hoping will be a final proposal will be published by the State Bar Council after the January 2023 meeting, with those rules potentially being adopted in April of 2023 by the council, subsequently adopted by the Supreme Court later on that year, and they wouldn't go into effect until 2024. So we need to wait, I guess, to make sure that we can merge these programs. We're waiting to see how those rules play out and what adjustments we may need to make with our program to really kind of just create nothing but a clear pathway to have CPE and CLE tracked in a very similar, if not the exact same manner. And so that's why we're waiting on those things. I think they probably are taking longer than maybe they were originally anticipated, but it's worth it to wait it out. So we're going to just kind of hold on to that thought, and that's going to be something that we continue to pursue. Other program changes, we talked about moving from the dual certification period to a single certification period. And that is something we talked about at the last board meeting. I believe Matt Smith was the one that suggested, we might want to just wait to see those CLE rules and how they play out, because one of the things we're talking about is, do we want to have a certification period for 3 years or 2 years, i.e. when a certified paralegal goes through the process, instead of recertifying every year, perhaps you pay your certification fee and that certification lasts for 2 years. The fee would probably need to be adjusted accordingly, but maybe it just makes it easier. It gives, I would hope, our certified paralegals a bit more flexibility. And if you have 2 years to complete your CPEs, maybe you have, instead of 6 hours, you have 12 hours, but you can take them whenever is convenient. You might be able to just, you might be able to take those larger courses and not be worried about, oh, well, I'm overshooting my 6 hours and I'm not going to get credit for that, and that's a bummer. No, you can actually take those and have all of them count. So we're still just waiting to see that, because the CLE rules kind of have that ripple effect. Once we get those established, not only will they impact our ability to combine CLE and CPE, but they could influence what type of recertification period we want to look at. Even if we just decide to stay with a single year, that's absolutely fine. But it's just, we want to have all the options at our fingertips when we get to that point. So this is just kind of an update to say, we don't have an obvious update, but we should have something mid-year next year, some sort of clear direction on exactly what the CLE rules are going to look like and kind of the domino effect of those rules for our discussion and our program purposes. We had previously talked about increasing the annual dues. We have had the same $50 annual dues since the inception of the program. And as you can see in our budget talks, which are coming up, but just really in years past, we are always projecting a deficit. It is just, we've kind of hit a plateau of membership. We kind of, I guess, spiked early on, and we've hit this plateau where basically the folks that we admit through the exam equal the folks that end up letting their certification lapse, or perhaps they retire, whatever it may be. So we're at a spot where costs are increasing, and that fee, like I said, has not increased since 2007 or 2006, and that's something that just realistically we need to look at. And I believe the board discussed previously, kind of the impact of a $10 increase, $15 increase, and a $25 increase. And what I recall, our minutes from that February meeting earlier this year was that the board seemed to support a $25 increase. And we would start that, at least it's on the table for potential implementation in 2024. I think we don't have to make a decision on that right now. I think it'd probably be best to kind of make these program decisions all at once and see if we have direction after that, particularly after that January council meeting. But I'll keep my finger on the pulse there and bring this back up so we can make everything or give everybody full notice and things of that nature. The other thing, this notion of moving to a single certification period, we currently certify at 2 different points during the year. And while that was created to help staff manage the certification process or the recertification process, that need to manage that volume, which was previously a volume or a huge volume of paper, of mailing in physical checks and paper applications, that has been altered drastically with the use of this online portal. And so the thought is kind of a new timeline. If we went to a single certification period, say we moved everybody to July 1, something like that, it would not only allow us to collect money for the fiscal year that we're in, which is different now. Right now, we've a recertification period going on, January 1 deadline, but we're collecting 2023 money in 2022, which is fine. It just kind of creates an extra step for accounting to make sure they designate what year the money is meant for. But we can move everything to, say a July 1 deadline and provide the correct sort of time for folks to get all their stuff in before any late fees hit and just stay within that fiscal year. I think it'd be manageable for staff and would hopefully also just be clear for our certified paralegals, because we do get a lot of calls from folks saying, when exactly am I supposed to recertify? Am I January or am I July? And even if you've been doing this for a long time, I know we've gone through a couple of different changes throughout the program's history, and sometimes that creates some confusion. So again, these are things that we're all thinking about. These are things that I would anticipate in 2023, we'll probably want to make some decisions. I don't think it's appropriate to really kind of engage and make the decisions just now, because like we said, we want to see what happens with those CLE rules and how that can affect our improvement and streamlining for our program purposes. I know I just threw a lot of information at you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
And a lot of these are items that the board has discussed previously and sort of consciously said, we're going to wait on what the bar itself, the attorneys have done and kind of try to follow suit so that we can streamline and mirror the processes for everybody.
That's right.
Any questions for Brian? Certainly a lot of things that we're going to be thinking about and having to talk about, I think, over the course of the coming year. But I do agree with Brian. I think those are items that we need to wait and see, at least until the bar has taken some action in January, and then we may have an update on a lot of this in February at our next meeting. Any questions for Brian? Okay, Brian, you want to set us off on or get us started talking on engagement events that we might want to do this year? And
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
have.
Yeah, so there's a couple things here. The engagement events, we did this. This was the wish. We started this right before the lockdown. We did some engagement events in 2019 and had some really good responses. We had an event down in Charlotte, and then we had another event over in Greenville where we just basically offered a free hour of CPE and a lunch, a chance for us as a program to be present in the community. And reach out to our certified paralegals and make sure that they know that we see them, we appreciate them, we want to help facilitate this idea that the program it's to improve competency amongst paralegals. And I think part of that competency is that ability to meet your peers, to see folks, to exchange ideas, as well as increase competency and improve services for the public through CPE. And so, of course, 2020 happened. We haven't been able to hold anything since then. Every time that we have looked at a particular date or location, it seemed that's when, a surge would happen and it just, kind of became all shaky. So the idea, and this is built into the budget for next year, just as it was this year, the idea is that we would hold 2 engagement events in 2023, location to be determined. But we want to make these, somewhat central locations. Usually, like we did before, we kind of chose a larger metropolitan area, and then Greenville is by no means a small community, but it is smaller than the Raleigh or Charlotte, and still just again get out there to a different part of the state and offer this opportunity. So it's our intention to do that again in 2023, and kind of God willing and the creek don't rise, then we will be able to do that. So that's the plan. 2023 board meetings, you see the list there in your materials. February 7th is going to be the next one. May 9th, another conference call. Basically, if it says conference call, we're talking Zoom video conference. August 17th and 18th is our proposed annual meeting. That's going to be an in-person meeting. This is a change that from what we've done historically. And it really kind of hit me, and Joy and I talked about this, that, when we had our last board meeting by Zoom, and we said goodbye to Yolanda and to Warren and to Matt, we were doing so by Zoom, and that just, it felt like a missed opportunity. So there's no requirement that we hold our annual meeting in the first part of the year. So it's our recommendation that we switch the in-person annual meeting to August, because anybody who's rotating off in August, that's our chance to have our last meeting together. So the intention would be that we would hold an annual meeting in Raleigh, August 17th and 18th. That is a Thursday, Friday, probably the same sort of thing that we did before, where we'll schedule dinner for Thursday night and then have the board meeting start Friday morning. And, the board meeting shouldn't last for, 8 hours or anything like that. We'll probably start at 9:30, maybe have lunch in the middle and finish up by 3 o'clock, something like that, if not sooner. But basically have the board meeting occur on Friday. So if you can join us for dinner on Thursday, that'd be great. But that's the idea there. And then the last board meeting would be December 5th. Again, Zoom video conference. And if it's at Zoom, we'll go ahead and start at 4 p.m. I know I put 2 p.m. on August 17th, and I guess that's kind of the thing that we'll need to discuss just as far as whether we want to do a dinner and all-day meeting on Friday, or if we want to start the meeting. Historically, I know we've started the meeting sometimes the day before from 2 to say 4 p.m., break for dinner, and then come back in the morning. But those are details that I guess I'd need some feedback on. I don't know if anybody prefers a particular format. If you like the dinner and then all-day meeting on Friday, or kind of larger meeting on Friday, or if you want to start the meeting Thursday afternoon, go to dinner, and then finish up probably by noon on Friday. Does anybody have any feedback on that?
I can't do the dinner on the 17th,
Okay.
but other than that, I'm good with whatever we decide, but I also am in Raleigh, so.
Right.
Sarah, would you be able to do a meeting if we met before the dinner that Friday? Or
Yeah, I can. My husband is a firefighter and he works 24-hour shifts, and we have 3 dogs. So I have to get home on the 17th at some point to let
Right.
dog.
Got it. Okay.
I'd say one of the difficulties would be for some of us, especially those of us that live a distance from Raleigh, that if you do a part of the meeting on Thursday, it ends up costing us both that full day as well as the next full day, because by the time you finish at midday on Friday and drive 2 to 3 hours back, that day's shot as well.
Right.
It's easier to commit a full day to Friday, even if it's with a dinner on Thursday night before, than to commit a couple hours on Thursday and essentially cost that day as well.
That's great feedback.
Yeah. Anybody else thoughts? I certainly think the dinner is a nice informal setting for the board members to get to know one another. So wholeheartedly agree with keeping that, and whether we meet before or after, Brian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think with Scott's comments there, I feel like we did that we took this format for the February meeting where we had dinner on Thursday, and then we had kind of the quote unquote full day on Friday. I think we were done. I feel like we were actually done right around lunchtime.
We were done, remember, because we ended at lunchtime, and I think
That's right.
started from lunch.
That's right.
Paralegals to join us for lunch for the 20.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we can I think I'll probably kind of take that approach. That way folks can, those that are traveling, Scott, you're coming in from Newbern, if you want to get in for dinner, maybe you don't have to leave until 4 o'clock or something like that, or 4:30. We can work on that. I guess a clarification point for Sarah not being able to make it. If we went to a place that allowed dogs, that had outdoor seating in August, I mean,
There is no way y'all want to deal with my 3 dogs. No, I appreciate it, but they're insane. And one will bite at a moment's notice, and the other one's going to throw up in the car. So I appreciate the offer, but yeah.
Well, with Sarah being local, I'll make the motion that we convene dinner at her house.
I second that. Yeah.
Okay, so y'all get to deal with the dogs, but okay.
I love dogs, so I'm good with that.
All right, well, we'll get something in the works, and we'll start the process of looking for the hotel and all that. But the big thing I wanted to get some feedback on was this idea of holding that last meeting in August, the in-person meeting in August, as opposed to early in the year. And it sounds like most folks are good with that, and we'll just figure out the format and have that to report back. That's great.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
All right,
that
Brian,
concludes the 2023 outlook then, Brian.
Great. Any questions for Brian on the coming year before we move on? All right, hearing none. Brian, I think we'll keep you in the hot seat here and ask if you could walk us through the 2023 budget.
That's right. And we have the budget in your materials. There's also a set of budget notes for you to take a look at. Just explaining the different line items and so forth, and explaining how we arrived at the projected revenue numbers, expenses, and so forth. Ultimately, the story is going to be kind of strikingly similar to last year as far as the amount of revenue we expect for renewals. We did increase the amount of expected revenue for applications just slightly. We had a projected increase of 31,000 this past year. We actually have collected, and you see there in the materials, if you're looking at the budget, there's a green column. That's our 2022 estimate. This is kind of based upon what we have collected so far, what we have spent so far, plus any additional revenue or expenditures that we expect over November and December. And that's where we get the estimate. And that's where you see that the 2022 estimate, even when we include all the different costs like the exam soft figures, the remaining salary that needs to be paid for these years, things of that nature, we're projecting a just over $2,000 deficit for the full year, which is much better than the $23,000 deficit that we projected this past year. You see in past years, I also included or left in the our 2021 kind of final numbers and 2020 final numbers. 2021, we had a sizable surplus. Same thing with 2020, which assists our reserves and really assists when we look at 2023, we're going to be projecting a $27,000 deficit. Now, why is there a deficit? Again, we have been operating using the same renewal fee since the inception of the program, and that's the biggest area for potential improvement to eliminate this deficit. Because you'll see in the budget, like I said, the revenue is pretty much the same. We're projecting $10,000 more in revenue next year based upon our historic application fees that we've seen the past couple of years. We've just seen more applicants. And I think that is in part due to remote proctoring. And that's something that that we have seen, like I said, more folks that have actually applied from across the state. And we'll continue to go forward with that. As far as the other numbers that you see, the examination fees, of course, when you have more applicants, you have more people taking the exam. And so that's where we'll find ourselves with, kind of a little bit of increase in revenue. Expenses, you get to personnel expenses. There's a proposed 5% increase in salaries. That is a kind of a state bar-wide proposal due to I guess just what we see as the cost of living increase that is so significant. I mean, 5% arguably still isn't even meeting the cost of living increase that we are all experiencing. But that's something that Alice Miner, our executive director, has proposed for all boards, all commissions, as well as the state bar staff, just kind of as an average thing. So you see an increase there. That is really the driving force in the increase in total personnel expenses, because not only does it increase salaries, but increases the pension plan that we have as well. When it comes down to overall expenses, you see we have a projected, I guess it's roughly a $5,000 increase in expenses from last year to this year. And really the biggest one that you can see there is we have an increase in software licenses. That is the cost of maintaining the database, as well as things like Adobe subscription prices, which have gone up. Office 365, I'm sure you all are in businesses too. You've seen these increases. So it's a lot of that software increase. And then we have pretty much the static amount of funds that are anticipated for administering the test in terms of ExamSoft, as well as working with our psychometrician. We actually have new contracts with ExamSoft that have been provided, and I was able to negotiate basically a continuation of our current rate that we've had for the past, now I believe, 5 years. Certainly the same remote proctoring rates. They are not increasing those. So I consider that a win. That we were able to negotiate the same rate for another 3-year period. We'll be executing those before the end of the year. But ultimately, like I said, we have a very similar picture in 2023 than we did in 2022. Deficit being 27,000. That's really the product of the lower renewal fees. If we did move to a $25 increase, $75 renewal fee, I believe that our numbers would be projecting somewhere around a $50,000 surplus for the year. If when we're talking about in 2023, when we're talking about increasing the renewal fee, what would we use those funds for? 2 things come to mind. One would be growing the program. Like I said, we've reached a plateau of membership, and I think that we can make additional efforts to engage with certified paralegals, but also paralegals who are not certified. Trying to reach out to folks to make sure that they understand the importance of paralegal certification and see if they want to, again, participate in this. And I really feel like I don't want to get on a soapbox here because I know you all feel the same way, but paralegal certification being a voluntary thing that paralegals put themselves through. They go through the test and they maintain this competency really for the benefit of the public, for those that they serve, to see the services that they are providing. Are something that are objectively measured and can therefore be trusted is a really important and powerful thing. And so we want to make sure that message gets to folks, as well as just recognizing the increase of everyday expenses, whether it's personnel expenses that we need to recognize people's longevity in the program, as well as the different increases in costs, for technology and software and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's the budget for 2023. I'll be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions on the budget for the coming year? All right. And I know that one of the things that we do, so we'll vote to approve the budget here momentarily. And I know that as we go toward year end, there are always some adjustments that need to be made, minor adjustments to the budget. And I think, Brian, that we've handled that typically right by delegation of authority to the chair to approve any minor or late year budget changes. Is that right?
That's right. I think we could address that if there's a motion to approve the budget as proposed. I think that can be a separate vote, and then we can have a second vote that would be a motion to delegate authority to the chair to accept budget adjustments based upon these year-end financials as needed.
And those are budget adjustments that are recommended by Brian and Joy and the state bar.
Yes, yeah, they're budget adjustments that are provided by our accountant. Based upon those year-end things. There are sometimes tweaks to insurance numbers or the audit number. The quote that we get for auditors, things of that nature.
Got it. Okay, so with that explanation, I think we need two motions. First, I'll call for a motion to approve the proposed 2023 budget as presented by Brian.
So moved.
All right. I think I've got a motion by Sarah and a second from Daryl.
Yes.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Brian, you have a 2023 budget to work from. And I think the second motion that we need is a motion to authorize the chair or to delegate authority to the chair to accept budget adjustments based on year-end financials as necessary. And so is there that motion?
I'll make the motion. Lakeisha.
Thank you, Lakeisha. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor of delegating authority to the chair to accept budget adjustments based on year-end financials, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you all. And thank you, Brian, for walking us through the last items. All right, and before we jump into the next one, because I noticed she is on the line now, Lakeisha, before you, and I see Kernodle is on the line as well, before you all joined us earlier, we did brief introductions, and I wonder if you might be willing to introduce yourself to the folks. We've got 3 new board members, Carrie, Scott, and who was and Precious, who introduced themselves. But I wonder, Lakeisha, if you and Kernodle might introduce yourselves to them, and then I'll have you, Lakeisha, if you would, go ahead and give us the report on the exemptions committee.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Lakeisha Chichester. I'm a corporate paralegal for a pet insurance company out of Seattle. I work full-time remote. I believe I've been on the board 5 years, and 2024 is my last year. And I'm welcome to all of our new board members.
Kernodle, do you want to unmute and introduce yourself? All right. Lakeisha, do you want to maybe just jump in then and give us a report of the exemptions committee for any special circumstances?
Brian, I'm sorry, this is Joy.
Oh, hey, Joy.
I received a message from Kernodle. She can't get off mute.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, but Kernodle is a certified paralegal, of course, and she has been with the board. I think this is going on her 2nd year. So
that's right.
Yep.
Great, Joy. Thank you, and thank you, Kernodle.
You're welcome.
Lakeisha, would you update us on the exemptions committee?
Yes, Joy, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought we had 3, but the report says 2. So if I'm wrong, forgive me. We had 3 applications, I believe, for recertification, and we agreed unanimously, which I guess is just me, to let those paralegals recertify.
All right. Any questions for Lakeisha? All right, Lakeisha, thank you. And then I know that next we are supposed to have the report of the Qualified Paralegal Studies Program Evaluation Committee. But that is supposed to be by, I know Benita and Kernodle. Benita is not with us, and if Kernodle is unable to unmute, do you have that report?
And Kunoto, to be honest, on my mistake, I actually forgot to include her on the email for the Qualified Studies Paralegal Program.
I see.
So it was just Benita who
Got it.
approved Wilson Community College.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can handle that report, but Benita's report is in your materials, and after reviewing, she recommends renewing the Wilson Community College certification as a qualified paralegal studies program.
Okay, and I think we need a motion, Brian, to
That's right.
Approve that recertification.
That's right.
All right. Before I call for that motion, are there any questions about the Qualified Paralegal Studies Program or the recertification process of Wilson Community College? All right, if none, may I have a motion to approve recertifying Wilson Community College as a QPSB?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you,
Lakeisha.
Lakeisha. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah.
A roll.
All those in favor of recertification for Wilson Community College, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, Wilson is recertified.
Brian, quickly.
Yes,
this is
yes,
Lakeisha,
ma'am.
I have a question. I believe now I am the only member of the exemption committee. So will we be assigning or appointing, whichever word is appropriate, for that committee?
Yes, that's at the end of the agenda. Brian will be asking for volunteers and/or voluntelling people to be on the exemptions committee. So we're going to get to that shortly.
All right, thank you.
Lakeisha, you will no longer be an army of one when it comes to the exemptions. All right, so I think the next item is consideration of the recommendation of the program director to certify applicants who met or exceeded the passing grade for the October certification exam. So I think everyone should have the list in your materials. And so at this point, we need to call for a motion to certify those applicants who have achieved a passing score as listed in the materials, subject to the board's standing recusal rule. And for those of you who are new to the board, we have a standing rule that anytime we are voting on recertification or lapse lists, anything involving paralegals who we may be connected with, we are recusing ourselves from a vote on that particular applicant or that particular topic or subject, and voting only as to the others. So with that clarification and subject to that standing recusal rule, is there a motion to certify the applicants from the October exam?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carrie. All those in favor of certifying the applicants who have achieved a passing score on the October exam, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the recommendation of the program director to recertify paralegals who meet all the requirements for recertification. And if a board member would like to review the complete recertification application of a certified paralegal on the list, then no decision would be made on that recertification at this meeting. and the complete application will be reviewed by the full board at the next scheduled board meeting. Again, that list of paralegals who are up for recertification was included in your materials. And so unless there are any questions or requests to see the application of any particular paralegals, I would call for a motion to recertify all of the paralegals on that list.
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carrie. All right. All those in favor of the motion to recertify the certified paralegals as listed in the materials, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the recommendation of the program director to approve paralegals who meet all the requirements for inactive status. And again, that list is also in the materials. And so may I have a motion to approve the inactive status for those paralegals?
So moved.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lakeisha. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. The next item is consideration of the recommendation of the program director to approve paralegals who meet all the requirements for retired status. And I believe that list is in the materials as well. And so I would call at this time for a motion to approve the certified paralegals for retired status as listed in the materials.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Thank you, Sarah. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. And the last, I think, the last approvals that we need would be consideration of the recommendations of the program director to lapse paralegals who did not meet all the requirements for certification. Again, the list is in the materials, and I would call at this time for a motion to lapse certified paralegals as listed in the materials.
So moved.
Thanks, Sarah. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Carrie. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And I think that those are all of the approvals that we need to give.
That's right.
Always the quickest part of the agenda. I believe the last item on the agenda is Lakeisha's question about board committee appointments. And so as I understand it, the chair is empowered to make committee appointments. We don't require any particular board vote or board action, but I would prefer to not appoint anyone to committees that does not want to serve on one. So Brian, help me out here. I know we have just two committees, right? The exemptions committee and the appeals committee that need members.
That's right. That's right. We need two members for the exemptions committee, and one of which needs to be an attorney. And then we need one other person to serve on the appeal review committee. Sarah, you are on the appeals committee. I believe you're
we've met this many times. I'm going right now to say I am more than happy to help Lakeisha out on the exemptions committee because I'm on two committees and I've never done anything on any of the committees I'm on. So I'd like to actually be on a committee that does something.
And I believe that we had three. I think we had two certified paralegals and we had an attorney, Brian. And SM Canero Hodges has also volunteered for the exemption committee. So if no one has any issues, I propose that we go with you, Sarah, and SM Canero Hodges and an attorney, because I think we do need three. And I think it's always nice to have fresh eyes on these exemption requests.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to be on a committee that you don't do anything, come join me on the appeal review panel.
Listen, I was the best chair of the appeals committee for multiple years.
You have rocked that committee, Brian.
I left
That-
large shoes to fill, I'm sure. I am happy, Lakeisha, to honor the request, and we'll be glad to appoint Sarah and Kernodle Brian, if we can appoint both of them.
Yep, absolutely.
And so then we would just need one of our attorney members to raise a hand and step up to help them and work with these ladies on the exemptions committee. Is anyone interested?
Oh, mine. I'm just reading the actual duties. I guess just a brief explanation of what you all do.
Precious, I can give you a little background. What we do is Joy will send it. I'm sorry, Brian, am I overstepping here?
No, Lakeisha, please.
Okay.
You're the best person to answer the question.
Is Joy will send us a list and we look over that list. And this list usually, and Joy, help me if I miss anything. It usually includes paralegals who, for one reason or another, fail to recertify timely. So you review their explanation and any materials or things that they provide so you can make a decision how to move forward. And I believe the other one is for examinees who want to take the exam and there's some criteria that they don't meet and they make a request to be exempted from whatever that is. And we just sit down and look at the information and make a decision on whether we will let paralegals sit for the exam or recertify.
Excellent.
And it's really pretty, it's very interesting because you hear and see so many different things. And like I said, it's always great to have different perspectives. So we have some guidance on how to move forward, but there is guidance on who can recertify for the exam if they miss it. And there's specific guidance on what paralegals examinees can take the exam. So it's not a lot that you you're not making up rules.
It's a busy committee during exam time. And usually at the end of recertification, which is probably in May once people try to appeal. But I prepare all the documents and send it to the committee. And we usually do it by email. And the committee makes that decision. And but it usually goes pretty smooth. And if there's any questions that I can't ask, I bring in Brian to provide additional guidance.
Brian,
But the committee's not there. I mean, Brian Oaten, but the committee is not just there hanging out with no kind of guidance. So it's just you have to make a decision, but I do all the work in the background.
Thank you, Joy. That's why it's such a great committee.
right. Joy keeps us all running smoothly, for sure. Precious, with that explanation, are you interested in serving?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Now,
You
Precious,
know you want to.
Precious, this would not stop your work on the PCC committee. We'll talk about that later. But yes, this is a great committee. You'll be great. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, Joy, it won't stop my work on the committee.
Some people are just gluttons, Joy. All right. So then I think that leaves us then with the appeal review committee. We needed only one appointee. Brian, I'm not sure if Sarah can serve on both committees and remain on the appeal committee as well.
I can do the appeal committee, Brian.
Okay.
That's the same issue, though. Carrie, you should be on the appeal committee. It's really, seriously, I have been on the appeal committee since I got onto the board and we've never met.
Okay.
Is this people who appeal the decision by the exemption committee?
Yes, if somebody appeals your decision, then it goes to the appeal committee.
Okay.
And it's we usually hold that by Zoom. It used to be in person, but when COVID happened, we went to Zoom. But we haven't had anybody appeal the exemption committee decision in the last, I think, two years.
Longer than that.
I can only remember one or two appeals that I think came in together during my 6 years on the board. So it is not a very active committee.
And that would have been in the first 2 years you were on the board, because
Right.
literally, I think I got on this committee right when I joined, and I've had none.
Well, that's because the exemption committee does such a great job.
Here you
I was
go.
gonna say that, Joy. I was gonna say ding, ding, ding. There
They
you
don't have
go.
to appeal it.
Well, I'd love for other folks to have an opportunity to serve if they would like to. Carrie, if that's
I
something
agree.
you'd be interested in, would love to appoint you to the appeal.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be on any committee where you need someone. So
Right.
I'm kind of bummed that I'm not going to be doing a whole lot, but you never know, Sarah. There might be something that happens.
In another year, there's going to be an opening on the exemptions committee when I have to roll off. So, just think of it as like it's baby steps.
There you go. That sounds good.
Okay, so the appeal committee then I think would be Sarah and Carrie moving forward. Does anyone else have any interest in serving on a committee? I think we can have as many folks as want to serve. So I don't want to foreclose anyone else from the opportunity if you're interested. All right, great. Well, in that case, I'll just thank our new committee members and those of you willing to continue to serve. We really appreciate you doing that. All right. So, and Brian, I think there's no board action again necessary, right? I mean, I can just simply proclaim
That's correct.
you to be committee members. Okay, great. All right. I think the last item on the agenda is any new business. Brian, anything from staff that we need to talk about?
No, we have nothing new.
Okay, great. Anybody on the board aware of any new business or have anything to bring before the board before we adjourn? All right, great. Well, with that, I think we can stand adjourned. Our next meeting, as Brian relayed earlier, will be February 7 at 4 o'clock, and it will be a Zoom call or a conference call?
Yeah, it'll be a Zoom call. Yeah.
All right, so and Joy will, as she did this time, Joy will send out the meeting link and and the agenda and meeting packet about a week or 2 ahead of time, I think, right?
Yep.
So
We'll be all good to go.
all right, great. Well, we will stand adjourned, and thank you all for your time and welcome to our new board members. Thank you for your service.